are here. We made it a little bit later than usual. I have a special guest with me tonight, lighten some of the load in my ailed and frail state that I'm in. We have 8 games to talk about. We will chat about fantasy basketball in general, what's happening with all this tanking and head-to-head leagues and all sorts of things. A ton to talk about. Let's get into it. This is the Wednesday post-game show. Let's go balls deep.
I'm the type to get shit done. You the type to observe. March Madness on my speakers, but today's November 23rd. Got something loud in the blunt, yeah. I don't say what I want, yeah. Probably somewhere sunny and tan. Foreign women in the sun, yeah. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. Got my brothers with me. Got my brothers with me, and my mama's healthy. That's all that I need.
Welcome to the Balls Deep podcast, brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. I'm Adam King. Find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at AdamKing91. Find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere, everywhere you consume fantasy basketball content. We are also part of the Old Man Squad at Old Man Squad on Twitter. All right, we are here. We made it 4 hours later than usual, and I can see that Shining Knight is with us. Frequent viewer, listener, but often misses the show. So good to see that this late time slot works out for you. I have with me DMAC, fellow Aussie, but other side of the country, so a little bit earlier for you. How are things on the west side of Australia?
Good, mate. Yeah, it's about 6 p.m. here, so just had dinner, got the kids sorted, so let's get into fantasy basketball.
Indeed, we shall. So we're just going to do this as a normal post-game show because I didn't do one earlier, and we'll just go through the games. You yourself said that you were pretty busy at work, so you didn't, you weren't able to keep a close eye on all of the games. We had some.
I do have a 9 to 5.
You do, as do I. But my 9 to 5 is currently from my lounge chair, so it's a little bit more flexible. I don't have to go into the office for a couple of months, probably. I just thought we'd start on because I've had a lot of these questions. I'm sure you have, just regarding head-to-head leagues versus roto leagues and fantasy playoffs, because for a lot of us, we're in the fantasy playoffs or we're about to start the fantasy playoffs. And the amount of people that have contacted me and said, or even just commented on Twitter and said, I finished first in my league and I'm about to be bundled out in the first week of the playoffs because of all these injuries and players getting rested and that sort of thing. And basically just complaining about fantasy basketball, head-to-head leagues specifically. Look, the issue here isn't fantasy basketball. It's the NBA. If we're being fair, it's not fantasy basketball that's resting the players or making up injuries. It's the NBA allowing teams to do that sort of thing. But nothing's going to change, I don't think. So I guess just what are your thoughts on head-to-head versus roto? And what are some things that we can do with how head-to-head leagues to limit the impact of this, well, for lack of a better term, the silly season that we're in now?
Yeah, King, it's an interesting one. I have had a lot of comments and a lot of investment from some people and just saying, look, it's a really unfair situation, similar boat, finish first, could be bundled out in the first week. But I can see the merits of roto. Shout out Dan Besperis, our good friend here. But the majority of us do play head-to-head, and I think there's been some discussions around different settings being implemented. Some people have thought, let's bring the end of season forward. I'm not the biggest fan of that. But I know that some of our leagues have games caps in a head-to-head, which I like, and it somewhat evens up the playing field. But again, some of it is just down to bad luck. But sometimes, and something that I've learned as well, and I say this to myself every year, let's avoid those tanking teams. But are we also going to avoid some of these dominant teams? And sometimes it's hard to predict. But you look at the Cavs, the Celtics, OKC may even come and face this. But these guys that are so clear out in front, are they afforded the ability to start resting these guys? It's a tough one. I regret. I picked up Walker Kessler during drafts almost everywhere, and we know the shenanigans in Utah. So there's no real easy answer, but I think it's going to make for a lot of interesting conversations, and even commissioners having those conversations with their league mates.
Yeah, it is a really tough one. Obviously, I guess the cop-out answer is yes, we bring leagues or the playoffs forward. But it just makes the season so short if we do that because we're already shortened it from the sort of the playoffs starting in April to starting in March. So we've already basically cut a month off the season by doing that. And if we were to bring it forward another month, then it makes it a 4-month season where it used to be a 6-month season. So we're losing a lot of what we love doing, and that's playing fantasy basketball. So
that's right. Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan of that either. The games cap, as you've said, we have that in industry pickup. We have that in my trial league that we're doing. A couple of my other leagues as well. I don't mind that as a way of somewhat leveling the playing field. It doesn't fix the problem, but it helps. I put up on Twitter today that next season I'm just going to tweak some settings, and I think in 1 or 2 of my leagues, once we hit possibly the All-Star break or even just once the playoffs start, I'm going to shorten the active rosters down from 8 to 6 or 10 to 7 or something like that, so that it doesn't, if you have 3 or 4 players out, you might still have enough to fill an active roster. And it means that those teams that for some reason avoid the injury curse, there's one team in my home league, like we're bombarded with injuries. He is just cruising along injury-free, and he has LeBron, who, I mean, we thought would miss games. He hasn't. He has Shea, who just continues to turn out 40-point games on a nightly basis. So he's just cruising along, and we're all hoping that our playoffs start next week. We're hoping that his time will come. And
he's due. He's definitely due.
Something, or Shea is going to sit a game or two. I think he has Anthony Edwards too, who never misses a game. So I'm going to maybe toy with that, just shortening up those rosters and see if that helps. With a couple of my leagues this year, we redrafted. So we hit a point in the season where we split into a top 8, bottom 8, top 7, bottom 7, depending on how many teams we had. We did a redraft and we ran 2 separate leagues. Look, that has helped to some degree, but the guy that finished first, he took Wemby, and then 3 days later, Wemby went down with a season-ending injury. He also has Jaren Jackson in his team. Yeah. So he's stuffed now, and he finished first in our regular season. So it doesn't fix it. I have toyed with the idea, and I'll probably do this as well, is ending the leagues before the All-Star break. So maybe you wrap up your regular season mid to late January, and then you have 2 weeks of playoffs, season done. And then just run a little because the issue, as I said on Twitter at this time of year, is not necessarily who is getting injured. That's part of it. But it's how many are injured or resting. It's more quantity over quality. And so I just thought, well, why not just run a little bonus league at the back end where whoever finishes first in the main league gets the first pick or something? Run one of those, like a playoff league. So I don't know whether you've been in a playoff league before. So like a league that we run through the NBA playoffs, where you basically just draft a different team every day. It's almost like a DFS league kind of thing. Yeah. So, and so whether you just draft a roster of, you have your 14 teams, you draft 6 players and that's it. And then every day you have unlimited waivers. So if Jaren Jackson goes down for 2 weeks, you just drop him and you pick up someone else who is probably going to be a top 50 player anyway. So maybe you do something like that. Is just understand, hey, we're not going to all be able to avoid the resting. So just end your league early and then run a little bonus league at the back end of the season with a small monetary prize, or the winner of that league gets the number 1 pick the next season or something like that. I don't know. So,
and I'd love to get people's thoughts on Sleeper. I've never used Sleeper, but people have said that's somewhat mitigated the risk of having a guy like, the specific example was he was trying to trade for a high risk guy like LaMelo.
Yeah.
But he said, look, some of the risk is mitigated for the locked in mode. So I've never used it. So I'd love to get some thoughts from people that have used it before.
Yeah, no, as I said, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here. And it's frustrating, but it is what it is. Let's get into the games very quickly then. So you probably haven't had a good look at the box scores from tonight, so we'll run through them very quickly and then just get your thoughts on anything that jumps out at you. We'll start with the Timberwolves and the Hornets. Timberwolves do get the win. Hornets, look, to their credit, they were sort of mildly competitive at least. They were never really going to win it. Jaden McDaniels, I managed to actually pick him up in a shallow league yesterday.
That's
29 points, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, 4 assists. He's been very, very good over the last month. I didn't realize how good he's been. Is this the new Jaden McDaniels? Can we expect this kind of production moving forward, or is it just a fluky month?
We know that the big man Gobert is still out, so that's somewhat contributed to him just having more opportunity alongside of Naz Reid. But maybe this is him. He's still a young guy. We know that his real life, well, before this latest run, his real life value to the Timberwolves was greater than his fantasy value, but now it's translating across to fantasy value. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is him. I still have somewhat of a doubt around that if it continues once Gobert is coming back into the lineup, but I'd love to see what happens. And yeah, it's great. It's great to see. And those that did pick him up off the waiver wire, like yourself, enjoy those fruits, because that's unbelievable that you're able to get him.
Yeah, as I said, it's a very shallow league, so there's only 7 teams in the league. So
right, okay.
Yeah, it's sort of the waiver wire is fruitful, let's say that. But yeah, you look at his numbers this year, and he's a top 70 player on the year, top 20 over the last 2 months, top 30 over the last 3 months. So, I've talked about him on my show quite a lot, and the fact that we've seen very small snippets in the past of he'll put together a week. It's like 3-4 games of really nice production, and we'll go, okay, maybe this is it. And then he just vanishes offensively. But this year, these stretches have been 2 weeks and a month, and they're far more sustained. So, yeah, look, maybe it's going to be very interesting to see where he goes in drafts next year, I think. Because he was he even drafted this season? He would have been borderline, probably top 100, top 120.
Definitely borderline. It's probably more for the steals and the blocks, to be honest.
Yeah.
More like a streamer level guy. But yeah, the usage has increased. The shot looks nice. Yeah, it's a great improvement from him.
Over to Charlotte. Yeah, look, there's not a ton to talk about here on the Charlotte side of things. LaMelo, some very questionable shot choices when you watch him play. I don't know what goes through the coach's head when he fires up some of those running 3-pointers. But he was
that's
good.
Just him. That's just him. We don't know. Some people say he's not caring, but even when they did care, he was playing that sort of level, and it's that sort of style anyway. That's just his flashy nature.
It is, yeah. It's interesting because that is obviously who he is, and he often looks like he's playing sort of very off the cuff, more like a street ball kind of a player. But that is who he is. But at the moment, it hasn't led to winning basketball. So if Charlotte sort of have views of one day actually becoming a competitive team, does LaMelo fit what they want to do? I don't know. Mark Williams was fine here. He was actually kept pretty quiet by the Wolves. He only had 12 and 8 with a block, but he's been fine. Nick Smith Jr., just talk about him quickly. Do you think he's someone we need to roster? Because he's been pretty mid. He's playing a lot of minutes, but he's not doing a lot.
Yeah, even without LaMelo, he was pretty mid as well. So he's more streamer level for me in the 12. I just can't trust him. He's so streaky right now.
All right, Utah, Washington, what an epic battle this one was. Wizards do get the win, 125-122. The Jazz, look, let's talk about Kyle Filipowski, because we don't really need to talk about anyone else on this team. But is Filipowski, we're adding him now. I think we are. Are you in agreement there?
Yeah, we're adding him and we're keeping him because we just don't trust what Utah's going to do. Larry Markin and John Collins, these guys, we know they're tanking, and they're tanking hard for Cooper Flagg. So let's hold on to Filipowski. He may have the occasional really quiet game where he's behind the occasional game that Larry plays, or Walker Kessler as well, another guy that they're resting at the age of 22. Crazy. But yeah, I would be picking him up and holding him because he's going to be winning a couple of leagues come later in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think we have reached that point, I think, where we need to roster him because he's, even when they're healthy now, he's playing 22, 23 minutes, whereas before it was 12 to 15. So he's doing enough even when they're healthy, but they're never healthy, so it doesn't matter. The Wizards, who do we want to talk about here? I mean, we don't need to talk Middleton, Marcus Smart. I get a lot of questions about those guys as do we roster them? Because, I mean, Middleton, to be fair, has looked pretty good when playing, but he's playing every second game, basically. So are you interested in him in a standard league, or are the absences too hard to deal with?
In a head-to-head, I'm going to leave him alone. A streamer in a head-to-head, Roto, perfect. Keep playing him every game that he plays. I think it's of value, and he's playing some decent minutes as well.
So I did an article for, it was for RotoWire. I think it was for Yahoo or NBA.com or something, about some buy low, sell high sort of players and who we want to be targeting now that the Yahoo trade deadline has come and gone, I believe, or it's about to. Keyshawn George is someone I had in that article. I had him in my waiver wire article, I think. And then thankfully he came out here and had 23 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 3 threes. Is he someone now that we're confident enough that even the shooting is going to be up and down, but he's giving us assists, he's getting rebounds, defensive stuff? Is he someone we need to hold?
Yep, I'm holding him. I love his fantasy game. He's just an all-round player. And he is efficient. I think he can shoot better than that, but he is efficient. So I'm holding him everywhere we can. I'm also really interested to see what your thoughts are on Bub Carrington as well. Are we holding him because obviously Jordan Poole's still out? Is Jordan Poole going to start sitting, even though he's still a relatively young guy at, I think, the age of 25? But is he in the same trajectory as the rest of this young squad? I guess Middleton's not. Smart is not, but I'm thinking Keyshawn George, Alex Sarr, Bub Carrington, these guys are Bilal Coulibaly.
Yeah, I think he's in the same boat in terms of his role, the minutes moving forward. I think rest of season he is going to start and he'll play these minutes. I'd probably lean Keyshawn George over him just because Bub has been in this role for a while. He's been starting or playing 30-plus minutes on and off for most of the season. And his production, I mean, he was obviously very good. 12 points, 9 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. But they were playing Utah, so you sort of got to factor that in as well. So I do think you could probably hold him. I'd have Keyshawn George over him. And then I guess Coulibaly is the other one there because a lot of people complain on my show and to me on Twitter that I'm dropping him. He's a bum because he'll come out and score 3 points or 5 points and shoot the ball terribly. But he generally does enough, I think, defensively, and those strong offensive games are starting to come at least once a week, twice a week. So I think all three of them are players I'd be holding at the moment.
Yeah, I'm okay with Coulibaly, but he's killing you in terms of shooting percentage. But I think he's doing enough, but he's borderline. Very.
All right, Miami. Look, they stuck it to Cleveland, but they do come up short. They were without Khalil Ware. They were without Tyler Hero as well. So, look, I mean, Kevin Love started all the nostalgia and stuff about him returning to Cleveland. That was great. We're not rostering Kevin Love. We'll talk about Terry Rozier, and not for any good reasons. There was a package of his highlights from this game, which I stumbled across on Twitter, and I retweeted it. And it was like a Shaq and a full sort of compilation or best of, but it was all from one game. He was absolutely terrible in this game. What's happened to Terry Rozier?
Yeah, what a fall off, because it wasn't that long ago we were thinking this guy... This was pre-Hornets as well, but this guy was just absolutely a staple of fantasy teams. But now it's not so. He's a streamer at best, and it has taken several guys to be out for him to be a streamer as well. I had a streamer tweet the other night. I don't think it may have actually been one of the last names that I put down as a streaming option for the Heat. I think I even had Highsmith ahead of Rozier, but he's just fallen off a cliff.
Yeah, it's weird. But he played 40 minutes. So I don't know. Not sure what's going on there with him. Onto the Cleveland side, and obviously all very good with Cleveland. But as you said, they are resting players. We've had Evan Mobley sit out. We've had Donovan Mitchell sit out. Darius Garland appeared to hurt his ankle in this game late. He did finish the game. There was no word of anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if he misses a game here in the next one or two. Whether he was going to or not, I'm not sure. But if there's a little bit of a tweak, they're certainly just because they've qualified for the playoffs now. That win today guarantees them a playoff spot. So I feel like he is going to sit shortly. So let's talk about Ty Jerome because he has been very good this season. It's fairly average today, 12 and 5, 1 assist, 1 steal. But Garland sits, Donovan Mitchell sits, Strus sits. Even the big guys sit. Ty Jerome typically steps into a larger role. So is he someone, despite the fact he's coming off the bench most games, is he someone that we should be holding?
Yeah. When you think about it and you look at those numbers, no. But you know that the Cavs are just cruising right now. So I'm happy to do that for that the explosion games where there is at least one starter that sits, and that's what I expect moving forward. And that could be a real game changer in any of playoff matchups as well. So I'm happy to hold on to him because at the moment, 24, 25 minutes, he's doing, it's not quite enough, but just enough to be held in a 12. Yeah. But you wait for those explosion games. Boy, we had it not that long ago. I think last week he had one of those explosion games in the absence of Sparta Donovan Mitchell.
All right, Portland and Boston. Let's start with Portland. They go down 128 to 118. Now, Denny Avdia left this game with an injury. Quad, was it groin? I don't know. Anyway, he got injured. He only played 23 minutes. Jeremy Grant, we know that he doesn't play in March or April, so he was out as well.
Yeah.
Tamani Kamara, not great in this game, but he's been very good. So don't drop him, hold him.
Yep, hold.
Donovan Clingan, bit of a polarizing figure at the moment because he's starting. He doesn't really have a lot of competition for direct minutes because they don't really have a backup center. Duop Reith, I suppose, is probably that backup at the moment. But Klingan's minutes are up and down. His production is up and down. I have him in a couple of spots and I'm very tempted to drop him. But then he'll probably come out in the next game and play 28 minutes and get 15 and 15 with 4 blocks.
Yeah.
What are you doing with Donovan Clingan?
Yeah, it's frustrating. The previous game was fantastic. The game before that, he was in foul trouble. So similar line to this game. It's just so up and down. In a points league, and I know you have some points league guys that watch this, I'm not holding him in a points. In a category league, only if you need those rebounds and blocks. And even blocks are struggling at the moment. You could probably stream that. So it's borderline for me. I have him in one league, and I've retained him as well. I'm not dropping him. I'm going to see what happens. This one was super disappointing because he wasn't in foul trouble, but I'm holding him in a category league.
Yeah, and I think, obviously as teams get more accustomed to both, but I think both Clingan and Zach Edey, I think are probably two very good examples of this. As teams become accustomed to how they play, they're just going to stretch the floor because it eliminates Clingan, it eliminates Edey. And Boston, as we know, are probably the best three-point shooting team in the league. And if we look at their box score from tonight, Derek White and Peyton Pritchard combined for 19 three-pointers. So that's what teams are going to do. They're just going to stretch the floor, and it basically takes them out of the game. So I would look at the matchup. If Klingan's available, if Zach Edey's available, have a look at who they're playing. If they're playing someone like he's not playing at the moment, but a Rudy Gobert, they're probably going to play 25 minutes. But if they're playing, as we saw Boston here, who were without Kristaps Porzingis, so they're not really running a traditional center, then he's not going to play. If they play the Warriors, he's probably not going to play because they just run a small ball lineup. So have a look at that. But on to the Celtics. They were without Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis. Peyton Pritchard, 43 points, 10 rebounds, 10 three-pointers. He started the season on fire, if we remember back to November, December. He's cooled off quite a lot. Is he someone at the moment that we're holding? Because I don't think we are. I know this was a really good performance, and if you streamed him in, you're on top of the world. But prior to this, he'd been fine. Look, I'd hold him after this performance. Obviously, you can't drop someone after they go off and score 40. But I can see him being someone that we're going to end up dropping again in the next week.
Yeah, it's tempting to drop after a quiet game, but similar to the Cavs situation and Ty Jerome, I think Boston are going to be comfortable probably in the second seed behind the Cavs. And I think they're going to do a lot of this resting, and you're going to see probably, I think they play the back-to-back, so they're going to play again tonight. And I would expect another one of these starters that play tonight, maybe Jalen Brown, maybe Derek White, to rest. I'm holding Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah, I think you do for now. See what happens. All right, Dallas. Well, what's left of Dallas? They go down to the Bucks pretty comfortably, 137 to 107. I mean, we could look at here. Max Christie, he wasn't great. Make sure he's rostered because he's going to play a ton of minutes. So you want to hold him. You want to hold Dinwiddie. He's not a very good player, but he's going to play heavy minutes. I want to talk about Anthony Davis because he didn't play. Obviously, he has been out since that first game. Do you, because, well, and part of this, you can probably steer my decision here because I have him in a lot of leagues in taking up an IR spot.
Yeah.
Is he going to be shut down for the season? Because I'm sort of probably 70-30. I think he will be. But until we get that official Shams tweet or whoever it comes from saying Anthony Davis is going to be shut down for the season, I'm really hesitant to drop him.
Yeah, when you have a top 5 guy, I think you would be hesitant to drop him. I can't see them needing to play him. I think the season's done. There's no reason for them to play him unless it is for the fans. And the fans are obviously just livid. This season has just been an absolute disaster in more ways than one. So it would only be for that reason. And I don't even think that's enough to play him. So I'm comfortable. I've said this and I've replied this to a few tweets going, do I drop AD? Do I hold him? I'm comfortable letting him go just because is he going to play multiple games to help you win your playoffs? I don't think so.
I've said the same. I was asked and I said, yep, I'm pretty comfortable with dropping him. But then it comes to my own team.
Yeah, it's a different story.
It's a different story when it's my team. No, look, I think I'll probably hedge my bets and maybe dropping him in 1 or 2 and then hold him in 1 or 2. I'm not sure yet. I'll see what
depends when your playoffs are. If you've started and you're struggling and he's taken up an IL and you need it, just get rid of him because there's no next week.
No, there's not. And I have him in industry pickup and he's taking up an IR spot. So that's one of the leagues I'm tempted to drop him in. I don't think I lost him and I lost I've got Rudy Gobert in that league as well as Walker Kessler. So I've lost like 6 blocks a game. I don't know how if I'm going to win. But on the Bucks, anything you want to talk about on the Bucks side? I rarely talk about the Bucks because they're pretty boring.
Yeah, they're boring. They're cruising. There's nothing. There's nothing of note outside of the norm. Sacramento,
league winning center Jonas Valanciunas, 19, 13 and 6, 2 steals. We don't know when Sabonis is coming back. Let's say it's 2 weeks at least, I think. Obviously, must roster player has to be rostered everywhere. What are we expecting from him? Like, we know who he is. The defensive stats have been weirdly good over the last week. Which is not what we're going to get. He also led the team in assists in this one, sort of playing that role that Sabonis plays, a bit of a facilitator. What sort of numbers do you think we can get from Valanciunas?
I said it on my show, as soon as Sabonis went out, I said it on my show with Kayla, I said, don't get used to 2 steals and 3 blocks, but I don't know, maybe he's just a defensive maestro these days. But I'll reiterate, don't get used to that, but get used to good points, good percentages, good rebounds. I think he can be a top 50. And the assists, 6 assists, that's beautiful. You don't expect that either.
No. So he's been good. And Keon Ellis, I would make sure he's rostered at the moment because they are without Malik Monk as well. No word on his injury. It's a toe injury, I think. They can be tricky. We've seen or we saw Dante DiVincenzo miss 6 weeks, 4 or 5 weeks, something. He was out for a while with his toe injury. So keep an eye on Monk. But as long as he's out and as long as Sabonis is out, I think we need to roster Keon Ellis.
Yep.
Denver, much like the Bucks, anything to talk about here? They're a little bit more exciting, but there's nothing changes.
Not too much, but I know that Russell Westbrook is available in a couple of my leagues. available in a couple of my leagues. Just make sure he's picked up as well. So he's putting up really nice numbers as well. But apart from that, it's pretty much the same as usual. But yeah, Russ for me has to be picked up.
He does, yeah. Aaron Gordon will come back and probably move Westbrook back to the bench. But until that happens, make sure Westbrook is rostered. OKC, comfortable in the end, 120-103 over the Grizzlies, who are obviously without Jaren Jackson. The Thunder, I mean, they're not a boring team by any means, but from a fantasy perspective, there's not a ton to talk about when they're healthy. Chet didn't play, so we got Hartenstein. We had 2 months of this, so we know how good Hartenstein can be when Chet is out. I don't want to talk about Shea because I don't have him on any of my rosters, and I'm against him in 2 leagues this week, so I don't want to talk about him.
It might be good for you to talk about him.
Well, maybe, yeah. Look, he's been so good lately. Unstoppable, best player in fantasy. He's been healthy. Look, I think, jokes aside, he has been healthy. If we remember back 2-3 years ago, and people were hesitant to sort of take that like first round pick on him because we thought he's got a bit of an injury history. How many games is he going to play? I feel like he's barely missed a game over the last 2 years. Yeah,
he's been that Iron Man. But I just wanted to highlight that Aaron Wiggins still is playing great minutes and still putting up decent numbers. He's not going to get you a whole heap of defensive stats, but the shooting's nice, the points are nice. Probably more a streamer. I've held him in a couple of my deeper leagues.
Yeah, probably a streamer, but as you said, yeah, he has been good. Cason Wallace has been good as well. It wasn't great this one, but generally has been pretty good this year. Alex Caruso just weirdly injured every second game, so I think you stream him in as required. That's about it.
Yep.
For the Grizzlies, no Jaren Jackson. So we got 20 minutes of Zach Edey, 6 and 9. Look, very like Donovan Clingan here. You think of him as an elite rebounds blocks guy, but the blocks actually haven't been that good. And I think that is because teams, I mean, you see him standing there, you're not going to attack the basket. He's 9'3", so you're not going to sort of knowingly just go in and throw up shots. So the blocks haven't been great. Is Edey someone you're holding, or is he in that sort of Clingan bucket where only if you need rebounds and blocks and that's it?
It's a similar bucket to Clingan. I think for me, he's probably just a little bit below because I think he does get run off the floor as much, if not more, than Clingan. And yeah, we know that OKC is that type of team as well. They play a pretty fast pace. So Zach Edey really struggled today.
Now, I would keep an eye on... Now, Ja Morant played today, but in a post-game sort of interview, he actually came out and said that he probably shouldn't have played, but they wanted to try and get the win. That, to me, sounds as though he's going to miss more games moving forward. This shoulder is not right. It's okay. I mean, he was fine here, 24 points, 6 assists, a steal. But I would expect missed games from Ja Morant. So if you still can make a trade, I would try to probably move off of Ja Morant based on those comments. Brandon Clark, with no Jaren Jackson for 2-3 weeks, do you think we need to go and add Brandon Clark?
Yeah, he was really popular as an ad yesterday, and I can see why. It's solid, and I know maybe 3-4 seasons ago, you were probably the biggest person on Brandon Clark, and he just had that fantasy stat set that we loved in 9-cat. 26 minutes, Edey struggled. Do we see a change? Does Edey go to the bench? I don't know. He's probably more streamer level for me in a 12-teamer, but I can see the appeal.
Yeah, I think in certain builds, he's probably, you have to roster him, and I have him in, I think, 2 or 3 leagues. And you're right, I was very high on him coming out of Summer League and in his rookie season and the following season, but then he tore his Achilles. This year, he's sort of settled into a nice backup role, but I feel like he was starting for a period this season. I feel like am I wrong in saying that? I'm just pulling up his
I think you're
his game log here. I feel like there was a period of the season where he started.
Yeah, that's probably a period when Santi Aldama was out as well.
It could have been. Sure. So it was for 15th. So it was for about a month. So from mid November to mid January, he started about 15 games straight.
Yeah.
So, look, maybe we're going to get that sort of production. He was playing minutes in the sort of low mid 20s, double-digit points, 8 rebounds, a steal, a block, very efficient. So in some leagues, that's going to be must roster. In others, it's not. But if he's floating around, I would give him
bear in mind
some
that
consideration.
Aldama is still out as well.
Yes.
Not sure what his status is for the next game, but I think he's got a calf issue at the moment. But I wouldn't think that keeps him out long term.
No, I think he was questionable for today, so that would indicate that he's probably only going to miss a game or two. All right, last game of the night, Detroit fall to the Clippers. Good win for the Clippers here. We'll start with the
unexpected
Pistons.
for me. I was expecting Clippers to really struggle on the back-to-back. I think it was OT, or it was a really, really grueling game the day before. So I wasn't expecting this, but I think that's on the back of James Harden.
It was James Harden and James Harden alone. For Detroit, look, Jalen Duren, not great in this one. He was fouled out. So just couldn't find his rhythm, really. But I'm not too worried about him.
And I think, I know, because my mate in the office was saying I've got a 27-leg multi, or a parlay, as the Americans like to call it. And the last leg was Jalen Duren getting 6 rebounds. And he was sitting on 3 at three-quarter time on 3 personal fouls, and ended up still on 3 at the end of the game.
Wow.
So 27-leg parlay.
That's rough.
Yep.
Look, so we don't need Cade's been good. Beasley, good 3-point streamer. Asar is doing enough to be rostered. Dennis Schroeder had 21 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds in 28 minutes. Now, this is what he was doing in Brooklyn way back early in the season. Easily his best game since coming to Detroit. There was no Tobias Harris in this one, so I think that obviously helped him. Yep. What are your thoughts on Schroeder, though? Because he has at least carved out a pretty consistent role for himself, and I think in deeper leagues, you probably have to give him a look.
Definitely. In that 6-man role, I think it's definitely solid, and it's sometimes difficult to find those assists on the waiver wire. So I'm okay with it in a deeper league. Probably a more 14 or a 16 teamer, but not in 12s for me.
And then let's look at the Los Angeles Hardens. James Harden, 50 points turning back the clock. There was no Kawhi. There was no Norm Powell in this one. So it was basically a one-man show. But look, Bogdan played his best game as a Clipper. Zubats continues to score the ball very well. We got this early in the season when he was a top 40 kind of a player, and then he sort of settled back into his usual role, but he's been good. Of late, Chris Dunn, 3 steals. He's been phenomenal in that category the last, 2 weeks maybe? Since Norm Powell went down. We're probably going to have it, I'm sure, I've got, surprise, there are a lot of questions. And I can almost guarantee there's a Norm Powell one in there somewhere. Are you holding Norm Powell?
Yes, I am. Yeah, we spoke about him again with Kayla the other night. And whilst Norman Powell is out and Kawhi will miss the occasional back-to-back, well, probably at least one of those games every now and then, I'm definitely holding Chris Dunn, because those steals in a category situation, extremely, extremely important.
And what about Norm Powell? Are you holding him?
What's the timeline on him? I'm going to say a couple of weeks, at least a week for him.
It was reevaluated in 10 days. So that to me means 2 weeks. He's not going to play back-to-backs. We know how the NBA treats hamstring injuries. They never give them enough time. These players are questionable with a hamstring injury that they returned from a month ago. Well, if you're still questionable with a hamstring injury, it means it's not healed. So,
I think you've said it there. I think if you're struggling, if you're just battling for that playoff berth or to get through to the next round, he can be let go. And I'm just trying to look at where they're standing at the moment in the West. How are they tracking? Clippers are 8th in the West. So, look, they need him. But whether or not they're going to push him is another thing.
All right, we'll do some questions very quickly, because then it's time for, well, it's not bedtime for you, but it's, I'm sure you've got things. Well, no, not for me, no. I can't sleep anyway at the moment, so I'll just go and watch a movie. All right, what have we got? Alex, late night. Yes, the Broncos game is on. I had to sadly miss the second half of the rugby league tonight to do this show, so that's commitment for you.
There we go. I'm an AFL guy, so I'm okay until tomorrow.
You are okay till tomorrow. Oh, Shining Knight. He loves your content too. So there you go.
Oh, thank you, Shining
nice.
Knight. I appreciate that.
What have we got? I won't do them all. All right, we'll start with Joseph Kim. Playoffs start soon. Who should I drop first to last? Norm Powell, AD, Gobert, PG. AD's probably first to drop. Last would be Gobert, I think, only because he has to. They need him. He has to come back. He has to play. I'd probably go AD, Powell, PG. I don't know. Where are you on PG?
Yeah, I think he's going to be missing a fair bit of the late season. Again, similar situation to a few teams. They've got nothing to play for, the 76ers. So I expect a lot of rest days for him, even Tyrese Maxey. So yeah, PG is probably next after AD. And Powell, if that timeline of about 10 days, maybe 7 now, just to reevaluate, missed the head back-to-back. Yeah, he's probably next as well, because I think you can get his stats more readily off the waiver wire than you can at Gobert.
Yeah. All right, here we go. Shining Knight. Fantasy playoffs are March 24 to April 13. Well, good luck, okay. Godspeed. How cooked do you? Well, look, it depends on who you've got on your roster, really. Yeah, look, it's going to come down to a lot of luck. Here's a follow-up to the Joseph Kim question. Would Filipowski, Santi, Pods, and Najee be an ad over them soft punt? Filipowski, I would add for sure.
Yeah. I'm big on Najee. I was big on him when the Kyrie injury went down, so I'm big on him, and he played pretty well last night.
He did.
Santi coming back from injury. I like his game. Pods, what are we? Soft punt threes and free throws. So you probably don't need Pods threes.
No.
Yeah.
I think Filipowski would be first for me. Probably then it would be Najee, and then Santi or Pods, one of those two. I think you could flip flop on those.
I agree with that order. Yep.
What else have we got here? Oh, here's an interesting one from Nick Zade or Nick Zade. Should I drop Edie for Keon Ellis? Very, very statistic based.
Yeah.
If you need steals, If you need steals, yes. If you need blocks and rebounds, no.
Yeah. All I can say is Edie for me is not a must roster. So if you want to make that switch, go for it.
Yeah. Are we worried about Denny re-injuring his hamstring? I saw it was a hamstring for Denny maybe today. Look, any injury to any Blazer is a little bit concerning. I know Denny has been very good this year, but they're going to have no hesitation in shutting him down if there's a whiff of an injury that's going to cause long-term damage or anything. So are we worried? Probably a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And they traded for him, so I think they see him as someone part of their future as well.
What have we got here? Oh, Denny's quad. Yeah, so I did think it was a quad. There you go. Don't trying to make me look bad. This one's, for me, this one's pretty easy. From Zip, 10-team 9-cat roto punting free throws. Who do we prefer rest of season, Hartenstein or Ware?
I love Ware, but I think Hartenstein's just safe. And again, with OKC dominating, I would expect Chet to miss a few games here and there down the stretch. So yeah, Hartenstein for me. Yeah,
Hartenstein for me as well. Only reason I would go Ware is if you really need blocks, I think, because Hartenstein isn't really a big shot blocker. He's sort of maybe 1 a game, but Ware has upside to get to 2 blocks a game. But I'd go Hartenstein. 2025 Rozier gives new meaning to the name Scary.
Yeah.
He's scary for a different reason, isn't he?
It is scary, yeah.
Here we go. Pelicans question. Who do we prefer between Alvarado and Hawkins for the next 3 games in 4 nights? Man, the Pelicans rotation is weird. I don't know. Is it as simple as do you need assists or points and threes?
Or even a point situation. Yeah, look, I just saw that the latest transactions had Jordan Hawkins as the most added player so far today.
Right. Okay.
Alvarado's minutes have been really disappointing. You would have thought after the DeJounte Murray injury that he would have just really taken off, and it hasn't been that way, I think. Hawkins looks promising, so maybe controversial, but I'm leaning Hawkins.
Yeah, and I think from a development standpoint, it makes sense for them to play Hawkins because he is younger. He is, I mean, Alvarado's not old, but I think Alvarado is who he is at this point. There's no sort of ceiling that we haven't seen from him, where I think Hawkins probably has a little bit more room to move.
Yep. And 3 and 4 nights probably means Zion will sit at least one of those games. So we saw what happened when Zion missed the last game. Hawkins went off. So I'm backing Hawkins here.
Yeah. And Bruce Brown will probably sit. Kelly Olynyk will probably sit as well. So
on the Saturday, Sunday, yeah.
Vion Linhall, good evening. I don't know where you are, but good evening.
What's up? How are you?
You're probably in Australia if it's good evening. What else have we got? How do we feel about Shaden Sharp's value the next 3 weeks? He's been pretty good the last couple of weeks, I think, better than Scoot. I thought Scoot would be the one sort of increasing and climbing up the rankings a little bit, but it's been Shaden. Do you think that sticks?
I do. Yeah. If again, we don't know how long Denny's going to be out. We know that there's no real reason for them to really play that well. And I like Shaden Sharp. He's now starting again. So I like his value for the next 3 weeks. Not to mention Jeremy Grant as well. So we know that Jeremy Grant does not want to play in March.
Nah, he's not. He's in Cancun or something. He's not even playing. He's not even with the team. LeBron or Kobe White and DeRozan for a points league?
Yeah. Depends on how deep your league is. That's my standard response. But yeah, if it's a standard 12-teamer, I'm still going to go LeBron. Yeah. But anything deeper, I'd consider the other side, White, DeRozan.
This is a long one from Shining Knight. Let me just read it before I put it up on the screen. Yeah, all right, sure. Okay, I have Grimes, Beal, Hartenstein, Vassell at the end of my bench. How would you rank them rest of season?
3 and 3. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And should I drop one of them for Messi or Sarr? So I guess would you have Messi or Sarr over Grimes, Beal, Hartenstein, or Vassell? My answer is no.
No, I'm with you. No. Beal, tempting just because he just misses games here and there. But I think you can manage that with your IR.
Yeah. So no, I wouldn't. Obviously, I mean, the two guys you're looking at are shot blockers. So that's, I guess, if you're looking at needing blocks, then you could. But in terms of overall value, I'd have all four of those.
Although I'm big on Sarr. In threes and blocks, that definitely fits his game.
Yeah, it does. So I'd have Sarr over Messi.
Yep. Sure.
If I had to pick one of them, and as you said, Beal, he's been pretty good, but he randomly just misses games with a calf injury that never seems to go away. So, I don't think you need to prioritize him. Would we drop Pritchard for Westbrook? Different league. Good that you're in more than one league. Would I drop Pritchard for Westbrook? Well, I probably wouldn't now. Because as you said, the Celtics play tomorrow and they probably won't have Jaylen Brown or Derek White, maybe. I'd prefer Pritchard, just as you said before. Aaron Gordon coming back will impact Westbrook. But yeah, I like Westbrook, but not over Pritchard in 9-cap. Ernest dropped Dinwiddie for Keyshawn George. More of a stash for the semis next week. Good move. I think so. Yeah,
I like that move. I need to familiarize myself with the schedule. I need to check that. But they're not Brooklyn Nets that have 5 games. But yeah, I like Keyshawn George over Dinwiddie.
What else have we got? We'll just do a couple more. They're just people thanking us, so they're not questions. What about this one here? These ones are always tough. Advice on when we should drop Maxey, Fred VanVleet, Jordan Poole. I wouldn't drop Fred VanVleet. Bye week, semis. I have Mobley, Kawhi, Keontae. That's a lot. There's so many injured players. It is.
All in and out of 2 IL plus slots, but no ILs, but just IL plus. Okay.
So you can move them in. So at least that's a good thing. Look, a lot of those, Kessler, Keontae, Kawhi, Mobley, they're all going to miss games moving forward. Back-to-backs, rest, as you said. Kessler gets pretty tired.
And also, is this a category league? Are you punting anything, or is it straight up points league?
Yeah. Sure. In terms of Maxi, Poole, like when are we dropping these guys? I think we'll reach a point where Maxi will be a drop. Both him and Paul George will be a drop. I don't think we're there yet. Fred VanVleet, the Raptors, the Rockets need him back on the floor. Amen Thompson has been doing an okay job, but they need a point guard. So I wouldn't be dropping Fred VanVleet if you can hold on to him. Poole, I'm probably okay with dropping already. I feel like he's going to miss games, and he's really just giving you like 18 to 20 points and not much else.
And also depends on who's on the waiver wire. Who are you picking up to grab these guys, or is it just straight pure streaming? And streaming, I'm okay with. And if you're unsure about any of these guys, drop, stream, and never look back.
All right, let's 2 more. I can see one down there, but I like this question here from Jared. Better add in a head-to-head league where I'm likely to get a first-round bye. Castle or Filipowski? I have Fox. Little worried they shut him down. So who do you prefer, Castle or Filipowski? That's pretty close for me.
Yeah, it is close. Again, in a head-to-head, what do you need? What do you need?
It is stats. Yeah,
it is stats. And they're both going to have fantastic opportunity. They're going to play these young guys. Yeah, possibly. And maybe Fox does keep playing, and which will impact Castle. I'm still leaning Filipowski just based on what we were saying earlier. I just think he's going to have a fantastic run at the end of the season.
And then there was one more. So apparently, I don't know where this is from, but apparently we're going to get the news on the Mavs bigs today. What time do we think? I have no idea when they give out their injury reports. I'm hoping that I wake up in the morning to news that Anthony Davis has been shut down for the season, so I can just end my pain and suffering and send him off into the wild. But I have no idea what time any of that comes out. It's a lot of it happens when we're asleep.
Yeah. And Kai Jones was a big pickup yesterday, and I picked him up in a couple of leagues, and then he was laid out, which was fantastic.
To me, that sort of, because he was out with a quad contusion or something. To me, that sort of says, the Mavs are just packing it in, because if they were sort of had any inkling that yes, we want to try and win games, I think they would have pushed him to play, because he can only play like 10 or 11 games for them anyway. So, to me, everything is pointing towards Anthony Davis probably being done for the season. Derek Lively, I think, could be done for the season as well. Gafford, I'm not sure, but I think Lively and Anthony Davis could very well be done. And so, we'll see what happens when we wake up. But I'm going to let you go. You've got things to do. I'm going to go and let
relax.
my family go to sleep.
Yeah. It's been a pleasure. Thanks, mate.
No worries. At NBA Fantasy Bible on Twitter. What's on the agenda for you and Kayla?
Yeah, more Between Two Hoops. So we'll do that every single Monday. So keep an eye out for that one. Yeah, we're ramping up. So this is the crunch time. So keep following us on Twitter, obviously yourself as well, Kingy, because this is the time where it really shines, cream rises. So we really need to buckle down and just get the wins.
We do, and best of luck with streaming, and best of luck with luck as well, because we all do need an element of luck at this time of year. That will do for this episode. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening and downloading, and please go and like and thumb and subscribe. Do everything that you need to do over there. I'm Adam King. He is D Mac. This has been the Balls Deep post-game show. Until next time, catch ya.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our